Welcome to A Bevy of Bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club. My name's Noddy, joined as always by Stevo, and in this episode number 24, we're going to talk about the game just played against the Kangaroos, a few general topics in the AFL, the game ahead against the Suns, and finish off with all of our tips for the rest of the round. So to all you Cygnets and Swanlings out there, fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods. Last Saturday night on the 14th of August at an empty Marvel Stadium, the 6th place Sydney Swans defeated the 18th place North Melbourne Kangaroos by 14 points with a final score of 13-13-91 to 12-5-77. Okay, Stevo, first impressions. What do you think of that?
Okay, it was a bit hard to know what to make of it, really. It was a solid win. It was a game that had no bearing on our ladder position. We were missing three of our stars. We were playing against a lower-ranked team that's on the up, and they refused to roll over like teams in similar situations often do late in the season. So I think overall, I was just happy to get the win. And I was quite happy with how they answered the challenge that North threw down in the final quarter. North kicked a couple of goals in the start of the quarter to get within, I think, 4 points. And then the Swans responded by kicking 3 straight goals to, put the game beyond doubt. And part of me thinks that even though it would have been nice to get a massive win and really blow them out of the water, we probably get more out of a game like this going into finals than, winning by 100 points.
Yeah, okay, look, yeah. Most of what you've said, I'll agree with. It was a very smooth start. I thought we were going to have a very big day out after that first goal of Heaney's with that really easy transition out of D50. I thought, oh wow, here we go. 38 points up with a minute and a half to go in the first half. Then a lapse of concentration. North claws it back to 31 going into halftime. Then, to their credit, North came out revitalised, played really, really well. As you said, got within 4 points of us before we kicked clear. But they won the second half. They won the second half by 17 points. If not for our good first half, and in particular a very solid first quarter, we could have lost that game. And that would have definitely have changed things. I think a lot of Swans fans would have been a bit shocked with that one. And look, for me, Steve, the fact that we couldn't blow them away was frustrating. So I think I differ a bit there from your first impressions. So look, in terms of takeaways, key takeaways, what were yours?
I was really happy to see the pressure back, the Sydney pressure. And that's been a real big part of our game this year. And it was a bit off last week, or quite a bit off last week against St Kilda. They kind of threw it back at us and pressured us out of our game. But off the charts in the first quarter, the pressure rating was huge. I don't honestly know exactly how they calculate these pressure ratings they show in the broadcast. I'd love to know. It'd be interesting to know. But I trust that they have given an accurate viewpoint of what teams are putting what sort of pressure, and our pressure meter thing was like it wasn't even on the scale in the first quarter. So that's how good.
I don't know if the commentators know either. They just know that if it's up towards the right, we've got a lot of pressure, and the other team, if they're on the left, they're not giving enough pressure. But God knows what the champion data people do there to figure that out.
It's probably some similarly convoluted formula as when they convert Celsius to Fahrenheit and back and forth. So. Who knows where the numbers come from? But anyway, that was good to see the pressure back. And look, the other thing, I guess, or a couple of other things that are connected, we have had a really good run with injuries, and we talk about it every week. We've had pretty much our best 22 to choose from since the bye, give or take. And our Dream One run with injuries got a bit of a kick in the guts this week. We've got Nick Blakey, unfortunately, out with a season-ending injury, and Josh Kennedy is also out this week. Hopefully we get him back for the finals. We'll talk more about that when we do the previews, I guess. And I guess the other thing that was good, we had 3 stars out. So we didn't have Lloyd, we didn't have Mills, and we didn't have Franklin. That's, one of our best backs, mids and forwards. And still, we were able to cover for them pretty well and play some pretty decent football, especially in the first half of the game.
Yeah, nice one. All right. So I think seemingly on paper, at least, we look like we continue to struggle against teams that are lower than us. That said, I had a bit of a look into it. So before the bye, the Roos scored on average 62 points a game and conceded 107 points a game, with 5 of those 11 games conceding scores of over 100. And the average of those 5 losses being 127 points against. Since the bye, however, they've averaged 72 points a game or 73 points a game and conceded only 80 points a game, with only 1 from those 10 games conceding over 100 points. So even though North have secured their first wooden spoon since 1972, and I'm pretty happy that the Swans played a small role in that, they're definitely not a bad team. And yeah, I know there's a little bit of 1996 grand final loss in me still holding on to that and kind of say sucked in North Melbourne. But yeah, look, my point is they're not a bad team. I think they're on the up. With Noble in his first season, I think these guys are going to be a danger team in the coming years, especially if they fill a couple of key position roles. But how did you feel about my little comment there, Steve? Do you harbour ill feelings towards North like I do, or?
I did for quite a while. I don't know. I think a lot of it was to do with the Wayne Carey era, and I've never been a huge. I mean, he's a fantastic footballer, but never been a huge fan of him. Besides his footballing, so once he was no longer around North Melbourne, I think that I kind of look at North Melbourne as almost like one of the non-Victorian teams in a way, because they're one of the poorer Victorian clubs that just gets like they're just fodder, really. Every time there's a let's see which team we can move to another state, it's always North Melbourne. So I kind of feel for them and their supporters.
Well, let's hold on to that because I think we'll pick that up in the general section, that topic. So it's a nice little segue. And I like how diplomatic you were there on air about your feelings towards Wayne Carey. All right, let me just very quickly do a quarter by quarter breakdown. So we won the first quarter, 5-2 to Roos, 2-2. We won the second quarter, 3-2 to their 1-1. They won the third quarter, 4-1 to our 2-4. And then they won the fourth quarter, 5-1 to our 3-5. So, Stevo, stats. Throw me some numbers, mate. What do you got?
The number that stood out for me this week was scoring shots. Hey, we kicked 13-13, so 26 shots to their 12-5, which is 17 shots. And after halftime, we kicked 5-9, so 14 shots to their 9-2, which was 11 shots. So we actually had more shots than them after halftime, yet they still won the second half by 17 points, I think it was. And we generated plus 20 inside 50s, which is a massive differential. So it was, their accuracy was impressive. They kicked very straight. And if you look at just our dominance, even later in the game, after that third Swans goal in the last quarter, where North had that little mini challenge, they got within 4 points, and then the Swans just went bang, bang, bang within about 6 or 7 minutes and pretty much ended it. If you look at that little run, even then, we still hit 7 scoring shots in a row in that little period, and then by the last couple of minutes of the final quarter, we were up by 26 points after those 7 unanswered shots, which was 3-4, which was again not very accurate. Then North kicked the last 2 goals in the last 90 seconds of the match. So if you take those out, which got the margin back a bit, and give us back a couple of the really bad misses we had, even that little last bit, it was a much more comfortable win than maybe it looked on the scoreboard.
Yeah, that's true. Look, I'm going to emulate your points here, and I'm going to dig into it a little bit. I guess more detailed in a half by half sense. So what I mean to say is, it was a game of 2 halves, especially regarding conversion or accuracy, as you've just commented. So in the first half, we scored 8 goals from 12 shots, so 66% conversion from 26 inside 50s. The Roos scored 3 goals from 6 shots, 50%, from 13 inside 50s. However, when we look at the second half, we scored 5 goals from 14 shots, 35% accuracy, from 31 inside 50s. And the Roos scored 9 goals from 11 shots at 81% from 24 inside 50s. So I'd like to say that North's tackle pressure was better in the second half, and that's what caused our inaccuracy. But North made the same amount of tackles in each half. Basically, I think it was 21 each. So we can't really attribute our inaccuracy to their increased pressure or perceived increased pressure because it wasn't there. So, look, we were just inaccurate. And yeah, we should have kicked straighter and it would have been a bigger margin. I think that's what I was most annoyed with when we're watching the game. We should have put them away more. But look, I think one of the other really pleasing things, to be honest, is we turned it over 23 times fewer than last week against the Saints. So that's a massive improvement, I think, even though the Roos only laid 26 fewer tackles than the Saints did. But still, it's a positive. So, all right, Stevo, what were your favourite moments of the game?
Yeah, this week I'm going to start with, it's not a favourite moment, but it was a moment. I'm always talking up Errol Goulden almost every week in these moments. And
rightly so. Rightly so.
The kid's amazing. And just to prove that he is mortal, though, that he walks among us, he He had a couple of shockers in the game against North Melbourne. There was one in the first quarter. There's about 7 minutes to go on the clock in the first quarter, and he gets it at right half back from a mark. I think Rampy chips it to him or someone, and he goes to one of his absolutely perfect, sublime corridor kicks, and he misses his target by a mile. I think he was trying to pinpoint Hayward. North takes an uncontested mark. In fact, when you look at the angle from behind the ball, you can already really see North Melbourne players in the view, and one of them marks it, sends it back the other way. And then there was another one in the last quarter where he misses an inside 50 target by quite a bit that normally we'd expect him to nail. So I thought I'd just point out that I'm also aware of his godlike qualities, that he's not perfect all the time. Yeah. So that was Errol, but this is a real positive one. This is in the last quarter, about 6 minutes to go. North's bringing the ball inside 50, and Dane Rampy's there. There's two North Melbourne forwards that are trying to position themselves to be the target. Rampy sort of is covering both of them. In the end, the one on the outside gets picked. Rampy gets over to him, spoils it, gathers it, hits up the target, and he's just done so well. And the commentator, I think, said, I forget which commentator, one of them sort of highlighted this play. Like rather, he's covering two players. He's perfect positioning, gets the ball, and then he uses it well to get us out. Not just a hack kick, but actually hits a target to Hickey. And most defenders, first of all, don't even get themselves in that position. They will commit, maybe too hard one way or the other, and the other North Melbourne player gets an uncontested mark and a shot on goal. So I just wanted to point that out for Dane Rampy, just to show that just how smart a defender he is.
Yeah, Velvet Robe was a very good play, wasn't it? I got two moments. Well, 2.5 roughly. So first moment was in the first quarter, about 13 minutes 40 left on the broadcast clock. Juzzy McInerney's two-step dart kick to Braden Campbell for him to go back and slot his first AFL goal. And then Errol to be the first to get around him for his magical milestone moment. So I just thought that was a nice heartwarming moment there. Plus a beautiful kick from Juzzy. And also a very nice finish from Braden Campbell. It was a lovely set shot as well, as you could imagine with his great kicking process there. My other great moments involved another left footer. It was Jordan Dawson and his two beautiful lace-out kicks to Hayward in the fourth quarter. The first with about 10:10 on the clock. Hayward takes an uncontested mark inside 50, set shot on goal, kicks true to get his 100th goal in his career and put the margin up to about 17 points, which was pretty close to the final margin. The second one, which came not long after that, about 8:50 on the clock, another uncontested mark inside 50 by Hayward, who unfortunately misses to the left. But it just shows you just how beautiful Jordan Dawson's left peg is. And they were my moments, mate. Yeah. What do you think of them?
He's a fantastic kick, Dawson.
He is, isn't he? He is, yeah. But look, you saw Braden Campbell and Errol Goulden there. Tell me your heart didn't melt a little bit.
They were loving it, and it was fantastic to see him. And I think everyone who's not even a Swans fan seems to enjoy watching these two, besides the ones who have got, death vendettas for the academy system. But everybody else who loves football seems to really enjoy watching these two young guys get about it and play some good footy.
Yeah, no, it's good to watch, isn't it? All right, mate, let's move on to the ABOB medal. So the ABOB medal is where Stevo and I give our 5 best Swans on the ground using the 5-4-3-2-1 scoring system, with 5 points being the best. So Stevo, kick us off.
All right. My best on ground, I had Luke Parker, 5 votes. Will Hayward, I gave 4. 3 to Cunningham, 2 to Tom Hickey, and 1 to Josh Kennedy.
Lovely. I gave 5 to Hayward, 4 to Parker, 3 to Nick Blakey, Lizard, and 2 to Hickey, and 1 to Cunningham. So I believe we only diverge on Blakey. So why don't you kick us off with Parker, mate?
Oh, he was great. I mean, him and Hayward, I thought, were the two standout best. And I had Parker a little bit ahead just because I thought he worked hard all day. He got the most contested ball of any team, the most pressure for Sydney. He was the second for clearances on the ground, second of the Swans for score involvement. He kicked a great goal. So he was really involved in a whole bunch of important parts of the game, winning the ball, getting it forward, hitting the scoreboard. And I'll tell you what, I was looking at his goal scoring stats for the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months even, and he's the Swan you'd want taking the set shot after signing to win you a game. Since the bye, he's kicked 8 goals, 1.
Okay. We're going to start to call him Luke the Iceman Parker.
Yeah, and he just knows he's going to kick it. Like, he's got that look on his face. He gets it, he walks back, and boom. Like, yeah.
I remember that was a moment. That was a moment of yours that he took a mark and went back and was like, no, I've got this. I'm going to kick it. That was, what game was that? That was probably about 5 or 6 games ago. It was in the beginning of our streak, I think. And Yeah, even from then. So 8 goals won since the bye, did you say?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, nice. All right, I like that. So hopefully you can keep that going. Thanks, Lukey Parker. All right, I'm going to just very quickly talk about Hayward. Obviously, kicked 3 goals, three. Probably could have been 4 or 5, or let's face it, 6 goals zip. But look, we don't penalise, medium forwards for kicking three behinds when they've kicked 3 goals, because he was very active across the ground in general. He was basically one of our best players as we've got here. So he was first at the Swans for score involvements, inside 50 tackles as well as marks, and he was second for pressure acts. So it was a whole performance, I think. You'd agree with that. I think everyone would agree that Wilbur had a great game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had him. He was very close to best on ground. He was just slightly behind Parker for me, but I could have flipped a coin, really.
Yeah.
And then I had Cunningham next. He was really good. I think that the last month or so, he's been fantastic, a bit more than a month. And he really controlled the play well at a halfback. Without Lloyd there, he gave us some sort of like a calm head and some really good direction, uses the ball well. He got it 26 touches off the halfback line, 7 intercepts, which was second at the Swans. He was third for inside 50s for the Swans. So he's really transitioning from the back half into the forward 50, which I really liked. And just generally, yeah, his past month and a bit has been fantastic.
Yeah, no, he's playing good footy. I do like Cunners there. Tom Hickey, the Hick, just a presence in the middle of the ground and around the ground, really. I think he definitely got the chocolates over Goldie. But I think he lifted to get the game back under control, especially when North were looking like they could have pipped us. But yeah, just tall Jesus running around doing his thing, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I think he's back in form.
He did. He was great. Another one actually I liked that I think lifted, a senior player that lifted in the second half when we needed to get back into, was Josh Kennedy. He was pretty quiet in the first half. I think he had 8 touches in the first half, something like that. But after half time, he really lifted when we needed a boost and a bit of a steady head. 17 of his 25 touches were after half time. So I thought he was worth a vote.
Yeah, definitely. And he's going to be sorely missed for hopefully only 1 week. But lastly, I had Lizard, 20 disposals at 75%, 18 uncontested possessions, 4 inside 50s, 4 intercept possessions, 4 score involvement. So pretty, obviously didn't play the last quarter, and Colo Reardon came on and had I think we're going to talk about him in a sec, but a massive loss for us, obviously, and him going in finals. We're really going to miss his renewed dash off halfback. So I just want to take this moment here to say it's a shame he's going to miss the rest of the year, but we love what we've seen from him this year in his renewed role, and we're really, really looking forward to what that'll look like going forward for the Swans. So, yeah, just a shout out to Lizard. Hope you recover well, mate, and we're all thinking of you. All right, Stevo, any honourable mentions, mate?
I had a couple of our younger ones. I thought Hayden McLean did really, really well. It was his first game back since round 11. He was a medical sub a couple of weeks ago, but he didn't get on the field. So his first actual on-field start. He worked really, really hard all day. He ran 15K, which is the most of anyone on the field. Yeah, we've talked about this, I think, earlier in the season. He's just a workhorse. He runs and runs.
The guy can run. It's crazy. Yeah.
So he's covering a lot of territory, and he worked really hard for his 10 marks, 4 contested marks. He's a really strong mark, and he got a goal. Which was fantastic, and then McInerney, I thought he played really, really well. He didn't get a really high disposal game, and I think there's a tendency to, especially with when you look at the stats page, you look at the first couple of numbers. Okay, these blokes all got 25 plus touches. They were the best on ground. He only had, I think, 15 or 16 possessions, but he used the ball really, really well. 93%. Every time he got it, he did something good with it, and he took some really strong marks, like relieving marks, going back with the ball. I thought too, which was a really nice thing to see him adding to his play.
Yeah, he just continues to look so solid, doesn't he? And it's just really, really exciting, and he's just still so young. So that's the other fantastic thing. I had Georgie Hewitt, 28 disposals, was game top for the Swans at 82%. So pretty decent. 9 contested possessions, 19 uncontested possessions, 17 pressure acts, and then a few intercepts and score involvement. So just solid across the board, I thought. Georgie doing his thing. And lastly, I just want to say Colin O'Riordan came on for Blakey, obviously, in the last quarter. And I thought he played pretty well. He won that moment. He did a beautiful little inside 50 kick to Hayward, who went back and kicked it. I think that might have been his 3rd goal. But yeah, I just thought he actually played better than I can recall him having played when he played last. I don't know when that was. That must have been earlier this season. But yeah, I thought that he certainly did himself, did himself proud, and and he'll probably be in selection frame, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll talk about that in segment 3. Anything else to add there, mate?
I guess just on O'Riordan, I mean, he's one of these guys, he's been messed around by the last 2 years being such a bad season for developing players with not really good like state level footy to play in. And he's one that I also think, if he was at a different club, would probably be playing every week.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Like he's obviously one of these players that they've been working on, but we'll have to wait and see. Like I'm hoping that he'll be here next season, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll do a little bit of a summary on the list in a couple of weeks' time. But Stevo, I think you've got a comment about an update on the scores for the ABOB medal.
Oh yeah. I did. I checked it just before actually before we came online. It's tight. There's only a couple of points between first and second, and we've got next week. We've got this week against the Suns, then one final, hopefully a few more. So not many games left to make up the ground anymore for the players. And yeah, there's only a handful of points between first and second. Third and fourth is also very tight. And then there's at least, I think, 6 guys who can finish fifth. So it's a really tight race home for the inaugural, yet to be named ABOB medal.
Yeah, I wonder who it's going to be. It might not be Lizard, which is unfortunate because that would be a cool medal name.
The Lizard medal.
Yeah. But all right, mate. So look, we're going to move over to fantasy update now. I'm going to give a quick update on our AFL fantasy team, a bevy of bloods consisting solely of current Swans, plus a few ex-Swans to help us out with injury cover. I have realised in my haste, I haven't updated our overall scores, so I'll do that in next week's episode. So a big apology there off the top. But I can say I have done the rest of it. The 3 of the top 5 scores of the game were all Swannies. Luke Parker got 116, Hayward was on 115, and Cunningham on 102. The highest scoring Roo and game high was Aaron Hall on 120, and he's been excellent all year, I'll just add. The top 5 Swannies were Parker on 116, Hayward on 115, Cunningham on 102, Hewitt on 91, and Hickey on 89. Look, there were only 4 scores above 100. 3 of them went to our Swannies, so it was a pretty low scoring game in a fantasy sense. But look, at least we had the majority of the Swans in the top 5 there. In terms of trades, look, we're going to need to switch out Blakey, so probably aim to get Warner back in, but of course that will be dependent on if he gets selected or not. And again, we'll discuss that a little bit more in segment 3. Over to you, Stevo, now for a VFL update.
Not much VFL going on, unfortunately. Victoria is on a lockdown again. I think other states are playing state league footy. I guess South Australia, Western Australia are playing state league, but that doesn't help the Swans players. There was a scratch match over the weekend. So from what we can understand, a bunch of Suns and Bombers players played a mixture of Swans and Suns players. And we're not really sure who played or who was good on the field. But Longmire did say in one of his press conferences during the week that the reserves have been playing well. So I guess that's something. And that's it for the VFL.
Yeah, okay. I think I saw something late mail. I think it was earlier. I forgot to mention that I think they're going ahead with a final series, 1st to 8. But unfortunately, Southport, who were playing really, really well and coming second, won't be able to participate because they're obviously stuck in Queensland or, are reticent to go into an area where there's, in lockdown effectively. So I think the Giants are playing instead of that. But this is very loose off the dome and I'll have to double check, but we'll give an update on that because I'm sure we'll have more in the news in the coming days. But nevertheless, the Swans were well off the pace this year, weren't they, in the VFL?
Yeah, they won
they
like
come
2
dead
games
last or something.
Yeah, close to the bottom. I think they won 2 maximum of 3 games before it all went belly up.
Yeah, look. Hopefully we could, just a little bit of development for, the likes of Logan McDonald, Dill Stevens, even Will Gould, who we haven't spoken about in a couple of weeks. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. All right, Stevo, MRO Tribunal. I think we got a bit of news. What was it?
I didn't even notice this watching live, and I didn't notice it watching the replay. But Josh Kennedy's been fined $1,000 for careless contact with umpire Nathan Williamson in the first quarter. So if you can see that one on the replay, please tell us when it happened because I have no idea.
How's that? $1,000 for something that you brush past the shirt of an umpire? I know they're pretty strict on that stuff. I think Cal Mills got done very early this year for accidentally, and he himself tripped over the foot of an umpire, and he got yeah, fined
Right.
$1,000 or $2,000. So yeah, it's a pretty draconian rule, but I guess it's in there for good reason, I guess. All right, segment 2, we're on to AFL hot topics, where we have a quick chat about a few things going on in the AFL. Number 1 is the Swans AFLW announcement. How fantastic, Stevo. Over
Yeah,
to you, mate.
great news. The Swans. This announcement came in, I guess, late last week, at least after we'd recorded last week. This came in that they've approved the Swans license and the other teams that are applying. So there'll be 18 teams in the AFLW from the 2022-23 season. So that means not this season, which will start around December and go until probably around the time that the men's competition starts next year. The one after that. So around about December next year, there'll be a Swans AFLW team running around. We don't have much detail about where they'll play from or the list or the coaching staff or anything like this yet. But as soon as we find out, we'll let everyone know, because we're keen to have another team to follow.
Absolutely. I'm so pumped. So it goes without saying, though, Stephen, this is a bit of a comment/question without notice, that you would be recommending we target Darcy Vecchio from Carlton, right? Your favorite player.
She's my favorite. I don't know if Carlton are going to let her go, and plus maybe
she's not
age
gettable.
might be a bit on. Oh no, she's not that. No, she's still probably within her best footy years by the time that we could get her, because there's going to be a season and then it's the one after. So she'll have played a full. And I think she'd still be a very valuable player to get our hands on. I reckon we could try and reunite the Rowbottoms, mate. Let's see if we can prize her
that'd
away.
be cool.
Prize Charlie away from Gold Coast and get her down to Sydney.
That would be cool, because that's a bit of trivia. I think earlier in the season I think your brother from Canada wanted to know which sets of brothers are more likely to play in the seniors first, and of course he was talking about which Gouldens, the Gouldens or the McCartans. But maybe it'll come to pass that the Rowbottoms will pip them at the post. So we'll have to, obviously not in the same team, the men's and the women's, but that'd still be one for the trivia books, I think. But
play on the same weekend. That'd be great.
That'd be unreal. Yeah, look, over the moon. You must be happy. You're happy, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've said before on here, and I'm not going to backtrack on what I said before. I still think it was too early for expansion. I think that that even the previous wave of expansion was maybe a bit too jumping the gun. I can understand why they've chosen to expand so quickly, but now that it's here, I think the best thing we can do is just embrace it and look forward to it. And honestly, I think that women's footy is possibly the most important thing that's happened to football in the 20 or 30 years that I've been involved in football.
Yeah, well said, mate. Up the Swannies, mate. I'm going to back him in. I love it. I'm pumped. So number 2, Stevo, the report on the Tasmania team has come back. Still no clear pathway to a Tasmania team.
Yeah, this report, the so-called Carter report, I think this bloke Carter, I think he was some former executive with Geelong or somewhere, was commissioned by the AFL to do some sort of feasibility study or something into Tasmania, where they should have a footy team and how it should look. And that's come back in. It's been submitted. The report says that Tasmania should have a team. The finances stack up. A Tasmanian team would not be a rich team by any means, but it would be viable. And it gives 3 main scenarios that should be explored. One is a standalone 19th team. The second is a relocated team. And the third is a joint venture with a Victorian team that would involve probably playing some games in Victoria and some games in Tasmania. If you go to the end of the report, which is where the real dirty detail is, the report seems to give far more weight to options 2 and 3, which is a relocated team or a joint venture, and far less put onto a standalone 19th team. There's no financial incentive for a 19th team. It doesn't give you an extra game for broadcast reasons, and it means that the existing 18 clubs, have one extra mouth to help feed through the AFL and the way they distribute money and get revenue. And on top of that, Gil McLachlan, the AFL boss, has said the Gold Coast is not moving, so they're off the table. So if they're going to move a team, it's got to be from somewhere else.
Okay, so then maybe it's the travelling Kangaroos. What do you think about that?
Look, honestly, I think this is crap. I'm just going to say it. I think it's garbage. Tasmania deserves its own standalone team, and that's it. I don't think that I think it's insulting to say, oh yeah, you've got all of these decades and stuff of football history, and you've been so important in terms of providing players to our VFL teams over decades. And now that we think you're in a state where you can have your own side, we're just going to, chuck you off our poorest team and slap a new shirt on them. I think it's garbage. Like, it's terrible. I think they deserve their own side. Yeah.
If a team relocated, they wouldn't give them a new jersey. So if the Kangaroos relocated, they keep them in the blue and white stripes, surely.
Yeah, probably. And so where's the Tasmanian identity in that, Some
I guess there's some kangaroos in Tasmania, but it's more about the
probably
Devils, isn't it?
if you say so, I believe.
No, but okay. So,
Yeah.
but aren't you saying that that's what effectively happened for the Swannies? That South Melbourne just got thrown to Sydney, and then I guess the Guernsey stayed the same, and then the only thing that changed was the name of the location. So,
Yeah.
are you disappointed with how it's worked out for the Swannies? I wouldn't have thought so.
No, but I think the situations are different because Sydney was a completely foreign market for Australian
Hmm.
football, whereas
Yeah. Okay.
Tasmania
Yeah.
is a rusted on
Yeah.
heartland state
Yeah.
that's got
Footy
its
state. They love it
yeah,
down there. They love it.
exactly, and they've got their own very strongly developed football culture that's been there for many years, and so I think that comparing them to Sydney or even to like the Brisbane Lions, which had that, you can call it a merger, whatever you want to call it, with Fitzroy and Brisbane years ago, it's again different because
Hmm.
you've got new markets as opposed to somewhere where football people live and breathe football down there.
Hmm. Okay, so you're just to be clear, you're saying they deserve their own team, but that it won't happen because they're not going to push a 19th team. I think unless they can provide a 20th team to get that extra game.
Yeah,
So unless there's like a new team developed in South Australia or Western Australia or God forbid Northern Territory, I'm being sarcastic there. Um, it probably won't go ahead. So that it's most likely going to be a relocated team or a joint venture.
yeah, and they've given no timelines. They haven't committed to anything. I think they'll hide behind, and it's a legitimate concern as well. But they will use the instability of the past 2 years, both financially and in terms of the competition more broadly, as a reason not to move ahead faster with this and give timelines. Um, I'll be disappointed if they relocate a team. I'll be even more disappointed if they have like a 50-50 joint venture team. If it means having a 20th team, which I don't actually think is a great idea, I would rather that than Tasmania have to cop a relocation or something similar.
Me too, mate. I think I'd rather the Tassie Devils, and then we figure out in due course where the 20th team or where who knows, Northern Territory Thunder, as you've spoken about in previous episodes, or who knows, like a new team in WA or SA. But
Or
yeah,
the Canberra Corgis is always a possibility.
Canberra Corgis.
Yeah.
I thought you wanted to throw the Giants to Canberra, mate.
Yeah, we can have another. I don't care. As long as poor Tassie gets their team, I'm happy to start to bend over backwards, honestly.
Canberra Corgis. Is that a piss take at me? Because I wanted to call the Territory teams the Territory Terriers.
Yeah,
Northern
that's right.
Canberra, you cheeky monkey. All right. Well, let's not call them the Tassie Monkeys. They're going to be the Tassie Devils or nothing, according to Stevo. So, yeah, look, let's hope it goes ahead because I think it'll be great for them because it is beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth, and they do love their footy, and they should have their own team. I agree. All right, Stevo, number 3. Who will play in our elimination final? Dun dun dun.
It's probably one of two teams, but significantly also talking about the finals, the pre-finals bye was, I think yesterday, Monday, maybe this week, quite early this week, announced that it's been cut. So they're not going to have that normal bye they have at the end of the home and away season. Instead, they're holding the bye over in case they need it later in the season, later in the finals to help teams quarantine if they have to fly them interstate or whatever from Victoria, because most of the finals teams are going to be Victorian teams, or at least 5 out of, no, actually like half of them. What am I talking about? Only half. Yeah, because if you think the Swans are there, the Giants are there, Port's there, and the Lions are there, it's only half
Lions.
the teams. Yeah, it's only bloody 50% of
And
them.
and the Eagles still could sneak in instead of
Mm,
over the Bombers, or
yeah,
maybe. But so then
yeah.
that would be three Vic teams, and they're really not committing to saying that they don't want the grand final at the MCG, so that they don't pee off your mates at the MCC. But
They're all getting so uppity. This is the thing. Like, you watch the media, and you would swear that this is all about the integrity of the finals and making sure that Victorian teams shouldn't have to travel if they don't have to play an away final. But I just realised that half the bloody teams, potentially, us, Brisbane, and potentially Port Adelaide, might even qualify for home finals in the first week.
yeah,
So
I
give
mean
me a break.
we had to let go of that pretty early on or halfway
Mm.
through the season when we realized that the season was hanging on by the skin of its teeth. So all right, so let's look at the teams who are still in. So what are you seeing? Obviously GWS and the Bombers snuck in at the end of last round, but how do you see this next round playing out?
They probably stay there just because the Giants play the Blues. and the Magpies play the Bombers. So you would think that both the Giants and the Bombers are going to win those games against lower ranked teams.
Yeah.
And assuming that those two results go as expected, then it will be those teams in the same positions, which means that assuming we finish 6th, which is the most likely, we play Giants first up in a nomination final.
Yeah. Okay. So, look, they're looking pretty good, and they're still getting some players back. Yeah. I mean, no final's an easy game, but I think GWS, who are out up and about. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Have you got a position on that?
I don't like the way that we look against Essendon. I think they open us up quite a bit, but then at the same time, and they've had 2 very tight results against us. But at the same time, the Giants have got much better record this year against the better teams. So both of these teams are going to get in the finals with 11 wins, which is very, very low historically to make the finals on 11 wins. Giants have 11 wins in a draw. Essendon just the flat 11. The Giants have beaten the top 8 teams, or teams in the top 8, 5 games. So they've had a pretty good run. Whereas the Bombers have only managed to have 1 victory out of their 11 against a team that's currently top 8. So in that sense, you maybe think that the Bombers don't have the pedigree, but they just have a style of footy that I'm not comfortable with against the Swans. They're quick, they score a lot, and I think they sliced us up last time. We were lucky to get over the win.
Yeah, the shootout. You mentioned that win was against Western Bulldogs, and obviously the Bulldogs have lost their last few. Obviously Bruce going down, so maybe they got them when they were weakened. So I don't know how much to read from that. That they only win against the top 8 against Western Bulldogs, who have been a bit down in the last couple of weeks. So, but yeah, you're right. The way that they play, and that Jake Stringer could do anything, I think, in a final. So
yeah, it's like, do you want to get Jake Stringer or Toby Green? It's like, who do you choose?
Well, that's it, right? I was actually looking at the team, the Giants team who played the Tigers, right? That was their last game, I think. Am I getting that right? Yeah, they came out and smashed them, right? So they on paper look very good, and then they're still to get back Toby Green, Canelio, Tom Green, Brent Daniels, depending on his hamstring. So like there's Finlayson, I think I left out. They are looking very good. In fact, there's internal competition on their side, and I think that they've timed their run very well. So I'm very nervous. I'm nervous whether it's GWS or look. I'm nervous anyway, mate. I'm just a nervous Swans fan.
Yeah, weren't you worried at halftime in the West Coast game? We're up by like 70 points.
I was, mate. I was. That's the kind of Swans fan I am. All right.
You're texting me. They're going to come back, man. They're going to come back. They're not playing that badly. They touched the ball like 20 times in a quarter.
You were like, mate, they're 10 goals up. When are you going to relax?
It's all enjoy it. Go and get a glass of wine.
So relaxed, mate. All right, look. Let's hope that we have a good crack nevertheless. And you never know, there could be a few upsets in this round, and we'll go through the tips at the very end of this episode. So very quickly, Buddy, 1,000 goal countdown. No change from last week. He still needs 14 more goals to kick to reach the 1,000 milestone. And I think, Stevo, you're talking if he gets picked, he'll probably go ahead and kick 15 goals against the Suns.
Yeah, why not? Get it done in one day,
I don't know, man.
He's probably over it. He's probably sick of doing press. This is the thing. I don't think Buddy's ever done much press. He's never been a big guy to sort of put himself in front of cameras and stuff. He tends just to play his footy. And and I think he's probably had more interview requests in the last couple of months than the rest of his life. So I think he'd be very happy to get it over and done with.
Yeah, we would still be disappointed, but do what you got to do, bud. We love you anyway. All right, let's get on to segment 3, which is the round ahead preview. In this last segment, we're going to preview the most important game of next round. That is, of course, the Swannies' next game. After that, we'll finish off with all of our tips for the rest of the round. So game 3 of round 23 is a home game with the 6th place Bloods, scheduled to take place this Saturday afternoon on the 21st of August at Marvel Stadium in Melbourne against the 15th placed Gold Coast Suns, with first bounce at 1:45 p.m. local time. In terms of injury status and team changes, Stevo, how did we pull up health-wise, and what changes might we be looking at?
Oh, not good, as I sort of mentioned before. I mean, we'll start with the positives, though. John Longmire this week said that Mills, Lloyd and Franklin, who all missed last week, are a good chance to return this week. We're not sure if they'll all come back or what, but he at least seems positive about their progress. Poor Nick Blakey is out for the rest of the year. He's got a crack in his right fibula, but they expect him to be ready for preseason, so he'll bounce back. He's a young guy, and he's a great footy player, and I'm sure they'll all get around him with that one.
I think he'll do a lot of shoulder weights over the off season and come back like a gecko or something. No, what's the next one? Komodo dragon.
Komodo dragon.
Yeah, that's I've recycled that joke. I think it was Brett or Chris from the Swans group who said that.
Yeah, right.
Made me laugh. So I
the lace monitor.
Yeah, exactly.
Eating your scraps at your barbecue in the park. Josh Kennedy has got a hamstring strain. It's apparently quite a low problem one. He'll miss at least this week, but hopefully no more than that. So he comes out of the team. Blakey and Kennedy are definitely going to come out. And then if we think that we've got possibly Mills, Lloyd and Franklin to come back in, then someone else has to come out too. I'd probably say Milliken, just because it'd be more likely to be a tall for balance in the side. And he wasn't bad against North. He played quite well, actually. He did a pretty good job, but he just seems to me to be the first one to move out. And then, we've already got Rampy and McCartan who can play on big forward. So Milliken maybe would be the next one out. And then, there's probably a bunch of senior players who need a rest because the pre-finals bye doesn't exist anymore. So we're going to go straight into elimination final. Who knows who they need to rest to get out? So it might be a whole bunch out. We don't know. One that I'd like to see in though is Warner. If there's a chance to get him a sniff just to see if he's going to be up for a big final, he's one that I reckon could break open a final.
Yep, absolutely. So for me, mate, obviously we know, as you said, Blakey, Kennedy are out. And then if they go with Mills, Lloyd and Franklin, definite ins. I would also look at Reid/McLean, although I think that McLean deserves to hold a spot over Reid. And maybe Florent or Rowie, just to be able to find four so that you fit in Mills, Lloyd, Franklin and Warner. Because I like you, I think if the Chad's fit, ready to go, get him back in there, because we all know what he can do and what he was doing earlier in the year. That said, Colo Reardon, I think we were talking earlier, we wouldn't be surprised if he slots back in down back like for Blakey, because he came on, as we said, and had that solid fourth quarter. We obviously like what he does. He's a competitor. So yeah, maybe they go with him. But talk to me about our targets inside 50, especially against North, Stevo, because I think this is a point. I know a lot of Swans fans were a bit despondent, a bit down on Sammy Reid recently, especially in the game against the Roos. So let's have a quick thought, a discussion about your thoughts on him and where he sits in his role.
I guess this is sort of in the broader conversation of looking at sort of team lineups and team balance and what sort of players we need in what parts of the ground and who's doing what. And I think one thing I really like about the Swans is we've got a forward line which has got so many different avenues to goal. So if you compare to a team like Carlton, where Harry McKay, he's their guy. They lob it at him. I don't know what, 20, 30, 40% of the time. I don't know. I'd have to look at the numbers, but they're going to him a lot. And you see this with a lot of teams. They'll have two or three main targets they isolate and try and feed the ball to all the time going inside 50. One thing I love about the Swans, so when we're talking about our forward mix, why it's hard to really think, okay, who do we take out, is because it's like a beast of 1,000 heads in a way. So it's all working together really well. So against the Roos, I actually watched when I was watching the replay, making my notes for the podcast this week. I went through, and every time we went inside of 50, I made a note of who we kicked the ball to. And the first option, or the biggest option, was 13 times we kicked the ball to a pack. So that was a situation where there was four or more players all under the ball, just a long bomb where it's not really one clear identified target. Number one was the pack with 13. Then McLean with 10. Tom Papley, 8. Will Hayward, 7. Isaac Heaney, 6. Sam Reid, 4. Jordan Dawson, 3, Errol Goulden, 2, Braden Campbell, 2, and Sam Wicks, 1. So that's 9 different players plus a long bomb to a pack that we have as viable forward targets, which I think is fantastic for a team that's trying to make it difficult for the opposition.
And so what the other point there you want to highlight is that Sam Reid was quite far down that order there, wasn't he, on 4?
Yeah, so he's very low. Yeah.
He's not being targeted as that the person to kick the goals. Is
Not
what
one
you're
out.
saying?
No,
Like
he's not like a one out target. If the ball goes in, often when there was one of those pack situations, he was one of the guys in the pack. And then his job there is to, to control the pack and bring the ball to ground in such a way that's good for our smalls to then, get it up and score. But yeah, he's not really playing an out and out forward role. At least he wasn't against North Melbourne.
So he's chopping out in the ruck. Obviously, I don't like. I think McLean and Amadi are better chop outs in the ruck than Sammy Reid. But I also know that Sammy Reid's got as good a set of hands as probably McLean. I think they've both got slightly better than Amadi, although Amadi can take a nice contested mark too. They're all quite similar players. Although I think that probably Sam Reid could go down back with a bit more confidence than the other two guys. So we're just talking about this because we know it's a bit of a hot topic with Swans fans at the moment. Sammy Reid, he's been in and out of the team over his career. He's had injuries. We were looking earlier before we started recording, Stevo, at his stats over the years, and he had, was it 3 or 4 years where he kicked about 30 goals a year? No, 3 years, wasn't it? 2012, 2017, and what was the other one?
I've got it right here. In 2012 he got 13. In 2017 he got 30, and then he got 28 in 2019 and 22 in 2011. But if you look at that too, in his first 4 years of footy, he wasn't going in the ruck at all because he's got 0 hitouts on his stat sheet, and he hasn't really started getting a heavy ruck responsibility until the last 3 years, so since about 2019.
Okay, so okay. I wonder what that coincided with. Just to help Sinclair, maybe.
Yeah, probably us not having a ruckman for so long.
That's probably it, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Look. So maybe the Swans fans, we give him another week if he holds in the team. And the other thing is he has come back from a bit of injury, and he's an aging player, isn't he? He's 28, 29, or is he dirty 30 yet?
He's close. He'll turn end of the year, December is his birthday, 27th, 2 days after Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah, so look, he's three or so weeks back in after a long layoff with injury. So look, let's just see how he goes. The other thing is, I think Horse likes him. He adds that structure. He's got that experience. He's in the 2012 flag. So look, he's been on the bigger stage. So I think he knows that he could trust him. So yeah, I think we probably need to also trust the powers that be. So thank you for that homework, Stevo. I love it when you get your nerd on and get your stat paper out and you take all these additional notes. I appreciate it, and I'm sure the listeners do too. So thanks, mate. In terms of Gold Coast, in the mix on the AFL app shows that Jack Bowes has got a hamstring and Lemons got that bad corked leg. So picked up injuries against the Bombers last week, although neither have been ruled out. Jared Harbrow. Talk to me a little bit about Harbrow, Stevo. I know we were talking about him.
Harbrow has been at the Suns since their very first year in 2011. He was one of those players that came over when the Suns started up. They were allowed to access, I'm not sure if they were free agents or what, but they were allowed to access a certain number of I'm not sure if they were contracted or just out of contracted players from other clubs in the AFL as part of their startup concessions. Jared Harbrow was one of those players that came from the Bulldogs that went to the Suns in their first year. He played in the very first game for the Suns, so he's an absolute original in terms of their AFL team. He hasn't played since round 5 for this year, but the Suns look like they're going to give him a farewell game, which will be 262nd overall, which is a good effort.
That's a very good effort. That's an esteemed AFL career, isn't it? So yeah, look, he plays off the halfback there, doesn't he?
Yeah, he has. And like when in his earlier years, I mean, he's retiring now, but he was a very, very good player, like a very dangerous weapon of a player.
Well, congratulations to Jared, and I guess I hope we spoil your party because we want to win. Sorry,
yeah,
mate.
Exactly. Yeah, and good on the Suns for giving it to him too. I mean, I think it's good that teams do this when they've got games that they know that they're not going to make the finals. I think it is nice that they give these farewell games to some of these retiring players who've been very good to the club over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, in performance prediction, which Swanee do we see flying high and why, mate?
I want Braden Campbell to build on what he was doing last week. He looked good. He had the ball, I think, probably 10 or 12 times. He used it really, really well, and he's put himself in the finals mix. So I'd like to see him just keep building.
Yeah, absolutely. Last week, I asked for 2 goals from Sammy Reid and he didn't deliver, but maybe that's because he wasn't the target going inside 50. Thank you, Stevo. This week, I'd like to see Sam Reid kick a couple. So no pressure there on Sammy. But yeah, look, we just want him to kick the goals that are gettable, right? That's all we ask for. Look,
Yeah,
I'm sure he was disappointed with himself, but you got to kick these goals. That's my point. So
it was terrible. That one wasn't it? It was a bad miss.
It was a shocker. So yeah, come on, Sammy, we're behind you, mate. All right, opposition danger players. Which Suns player do we need to be wary of, mate?
Noah Anderson. He's kind of slid under the radar a bit. He's because he was pick 2 in the draft where Matt Rowell was pick 1. And this guy is a good player. He tore us apart when we played them in round 6. He's only 20. He's a really quality young player and really core to what the Suns are trying to build as they, improve and go forward. So yeah, he's the one for me.
Yeah, okay, fair call. He is a pretty good player, isn't he? So I've got Ben King. He's coming 9th in the Coleman. He's kicked 43 goals for the year. Just having a very good. I think he's having a better year than his brother Max King at the Saints. Look, if Melican's in, I want him to wear him like a glove. I know he's a bit taller than him, but yeah, we really need to stop his dominance there because he can really clunk them and kick them. Otherwise, Tuke Miller, who is just having probably the best year of his career, is just a gun in their midfield. He's elite in disposals, kicks, handballs, above average in contested possessions, clearances, and score involvement. So I think someone has to have a job in him, and I think it's going to be Georgie Hewitt. So I picked Georgie to just stick to him like glue. In terms of winning formula requirements, mate, how do we get the win?
It's a tough one because the Suns are going to want to end their season on a positive note. They've had, in the last 4 games or so, they've had 3 thrashings from top 8 teams when they play them. And, on the other hand, I think we need to get into finals gear by playing with some finals-like intensity and not give them a sniff of an upset. But you know what? Honestly, I'll be happy if we just get it done and don't get any injuries. These awkward games where, we can't go up the ladder. We're going to be 6th. So it doesn't affect our position in any sense. We don't need percentage. We don't need to make the top 4. Everything's locked for the Swans. And then on the other hand, a win for the Suns, it might actually weaken their draft position, and a loss might get them as high up the draft order as 2 or 3, depending on other results. So it's going to be a weird game in a very, very empty Marvel Stadium to end off the season for the Suns. And it might be tough for sides to be motivated, but I hope the Swans have enough motivation to get the job done and go into the finals in some form.
Yeah, look, I don't think Stewie Jew's got it in him to throw the bout. But look, the Suns are a bogey team for us. I think our worst game of this year, I think you'll agree, Stevo, our worst game was the Suns game. We got absolutely smashed. We lost by 40. It's our biggest margin loss this year. So I don't want us to treat this game like the result doesn't matter for the reasons you said. I want us to pretend like it's a final, play like we deserve to be there. I want us to be absolutely humming by the time we play that elimination final. Come out with a hunger to play and a desire to win. Tackle, kick, smash. Just do. We don't have to completely smash them, but I want there to be a serious intent. And let's not forget, as I've just mentioned, that round 6 game was a shocker. So we've got to make amends for that. So, right, let's look at recent form and previous meetings. So we're obviously 13 wins and 8 losses, sitting 6th. The Suns are 7 wins, 14 losses, sitting 15th. We're 4 from our last 5, the last loss being against the Saints in round 21. They're 1 win from the last 5, with their last win against Carlton in round 21. All other losses, those 4, have been against top 8 teams. They've had a losing average margin of 56.5 points. So some big losses in that time. Against the Suns, the Swans have only won 2 of the past 5 games, with our last win coming in 2019. And as I alluded to earlier, our last loss coming earlier this year. In our last 2 games against the Suns, they've beaten us by an average of 36 points. So that's something to think about. The Suns' 7 wins have been against fairly low teams. They beat the Roos, us, Collingwood, Hawthorn, Richmond, GWS, and Carlton. If you remove the GWS win, which was a 1-point win, when the Suns win, they win pretty comfortably by about 32 points. So when they're playing well, they get the job done by 5 or 6 goals. That said, the Suns are coming dead last in total points scored and third last in points conceded, meaning they've conceded the third most points. So I guess they're coming third in the points conceded section, whereas we are the 4th best attacking team and the 6th best defensive team. So a little bit contrasting styles there, at least in terms of points scored and for and against. Be that as it may, they are one of the hardest working teams. They're coming second in the league for tackles, averaging 62.5 or 62.4 tackles a game. Sydney, which was coming first for a while, is now coming sixth, averaging 60.8 tackles a game. So it should be a pretty intense game. I understand it. So with all this in mind, Stevo, who are you tipping?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Swans are going to win. And I mean, they've had 2 wins against, like you just said, 2 wins against top 8 teams that will play finals. The Suns aren't rubbish. It's just that sometimes they play terribly. But I'll tip the Swans, I think.
Yeah, look, I just want to get this Suns bogey off our back. I want us to figure Stewie Dew out because he's figured us out the last couple. And I want us to go into the finals with our heads up. So I'm picking the Swans. I'm trying to get us over the line. Stevo, lastly, if a group of Swans is called a bevy, then what is a group of Suns called?
All right, this is another one of these double ups. And I just realized that if we play either Essendon or Giants in a final, it's going to be a triple up, and I'm really going to have to get creative for either of them. But for now, last time we did a constellation of Suns. At this time, I'm trying to think about the current situation their club's in. And, they're a bit of a mess. They've really struggled over their 11 almost completed seasons. And I think the AFL and their fans and the club is going to be hoping they can rise from the ashes like a phoenix and start to make an impact. And I think that finals within the next 5 years needs to be the pass mark. They need to be in finals within 5 years. So I'm going to call them a phoenix of Suns because they're going to rise like a phoenix.
Phoenix Suns, like the basketball team.
Yeah, hopefully they don't send us a cease and desist or some sort of infringement from their lawyers.
Surely not.
Yeah.
Stevo, last week you mentioned about the Festival of Footy. So give us a quick update on that, mate. I'm keen to know.
Yeah, it was great. We had players from all around Finland coming to play, and we had a tournament on the day and some friendly matches as well. And the outcome of the tournament, the Helsinki Heat Seekers, who I said earlier were the favourite, they're the team to beat. They won the final of the Festival of Football against Turku Dockers in the playoff. Was a 4-quarter game. So the earlier, like the qualifying games, we did as shortened games, like short halves, and then we played 4 quarters. The Dockers were actually within 4 points at 3-quarter time, and we had a hope. I mean, I'm with the Dockers. We had a hope that we'd get over the end of them, but then they rolled over us in the last quarter. They kicked like 5 goals to nothing and won out by about 5 or 6 goals. But it was a great weekend of footy, a great day of footy. And in Europe in general, it was good. I mean, there was simultaneous tournaments in 12 different countries in Europe, starting from Ireland all over in the west to Russia in the east and plenty in between. So yeah, really good day.
That's awesome, mate. And you sent me a couple of action shots of you in action because you pulled the Guernsey on, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm mostly retired, but I occasionally run around, and yeah, the picture I sent of you was me getting crunched by a much taller, much younger, much fitter gentleman who rode me into the ground. And I'm feeling it today.
you were caught holding the ball, is that right?
Yeah, which I still dispute. I'm waiting for the footage to come back on that one, but I don't think it was holding the ball. But,
and then he went on to kick a goal, is that right?
He kicked a goal, yeah.
Listen, as I texted you, I think it should have been a 50-meter penalty to you. The reason being an overzealous tackle on a mature age player.
Absolutely.
I thought it looked great, and it looked like a wonderful day out. So, and then I think you guys had a bit of a barbie and a bit of a piss up as well.
Yeah, because I mean, with the COVID restrictions, the bars, at least in southern Finland, the bars are only open until 10 p.m. and we didn't finish the games until about 8:30-ish, 9. So we had a bunch of beers and stuff at the field, and there's a sauna in the change rooms. In Finland, there's a sauna everywhere where you can put a sauna. There's a sauna in this country, so there was a sauna in the change rooms. It was a good afternoon, evening.
Oh, that's awesome, mate. Good to hear. I was looking forward to that update, and it sounds like it was a good day of footy and across Europe in general. So the AFL can give themselves a pat on the back there, and also send you at least a case of beer to keep the flag flying in Finland, mate.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gil, if you're listening, a case of Crownies over to Stevo. All right. So next up, we're going to run through very quickly all of our tips for the rest of the round. The last round of the year, it's going to be a tight one. So we'll just get into it. Round 23, game 1 is the 4th place Bulldogs versus 3rd place Power at Marvel on Friday night. I'm going the Power.
Yeah, I'm going the Dogs. Brace yourself because I'm 6 points behind in the tipping comp. So I need to beat you by 7 this week. So we'll see how I go.
a round of upsets again.
Yeah.
All right. Game 2, 11th place Tigers against the 14th place Hawks at the MCG on Saturday afternoon. I'm going the Hawks.
Yeah, so I'd be on the Tigers. And also I want to say Burgoyne from the Hawks, he's retiring after this game 407, that will be, which is a fantastic effort for him.
Legend. Absolute legend. Well played. A little bit of a battle of the dying dynasties there, isn't it? Tigers and Hawks.
But yeah, it was the one and the one before. Hey.
Yeah. All right, game 3. It's obviously the Swans and the Suns, and we're both picking the Swannies. Up the Bloods. Game 4, we've got 5th place Lions versus 9th place Eagles at the Gabba on Saturday twilight. I'm going the Lions.
I'll go the Eagles, but they probably won't win.
Yeah, no, that game against the Dockers was a very good game, but couldn't get the job done.
Yeah, they blew it.
They did blow it. And Mundy, what a legend himself. Equaled the record 353 with Pavlich there and had a cracking game as well. Still putting us all to shame, Stevo, at 35 or 6 or 7 or whatever he is. He's a legend himself. So game 5, we've got 2nd place Cats against the 1st place Demons at GMHBA Saturday night. I'm going to pick the Demons in an upset.
Yeah, I'll pick the Cats. This is an interesting game. I mean, it doesn't really count for much, I guess. But yeah, the one in the top 4 that really counts is the Power versus the Dogs, because if Port beat the Dogs and Brisbane beat the Eagles, then the Dogs finish 5th. They missed the top 4.
Yeah, that'll be one hell of a drop because they've been like 1st or 2nd for most of the year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll be one to watch. All right, game 6, we've got 13th place Blues versus 7th place Giants at Marvel on Saturday night. I'm going to pick the Giants.
I'm tipping the Blues purely for Eddie Betts, because it's going to be Eddie Betts' I think 350th and final game, and then he's going to retire. He's amazing career. 638 goals I've got written down here, which for a small forward is phenomenal, and 5 hit-outs, which I thought was fantastic. 5 hit-outs for Eddie Betts.
Oh, yeah, unreal. The guy can do everything.
Yeah, you really can. 5 hit-outs.
The goals he kicked though, you just look and you shake your head and you think, how does he do it? And it's not a fluke because he's done it for how many years now? 15
that's
or
it.
So years.
It's crazy. And I'll be honest, like if I'm at training, I've never supported the Crows or the Blues in my life, but if I'm at training and we're practicing grubbers from the pocket, I'm commentating Eddie Betts in my head. I'm not pretending to be anyone else.
Spinning the decks, I loved it. Yeah, he was unreal. What a player, and just an ambassador of the game, I think. Obviously, definitely. With all the racism stuff that's come up most recently, he's at the fore and really sort of leading that discussion and is really a champion of the game in every sense. So, yeah, well played, Betts. A couple of legends bowing out this round. It's a bit sad. All right, game 7, we've got the 12th place Saints versus 10th place Dockers. Ground to be confirmed, or might have been confirmed while we're recording, so we'll get back to that. It's on Sunday afternoon against I'm going the Dockers here.
I'll go the Saints. They were pretty good against us. I mean, the Dockers were good last week. I have no idea who win this, but I'm just going to say the Saints because you've said the Dockers and I need to catch up.
Gotcha. Game 8, we've got the 8th place Bombers versus 16th place Magpies at the MCG Sunday afternoon. Bombers.
Yeah, I can't bring myself to tip Magpies to beat them. It's not going to happen. I'd just be throwing a point away. The Bombers will win.
Yeah. The Bombers will be very disappointed in themselves if they drop this one, because then they might drop out of the 8. But can't see it happening. All right, game 9, the last game of the year in the regular season sense. We've got the battle of the bottom end of the table. We've got 17th place Crows versus 18th place Kangaroos at Adelaide Oval on Sunday twilight. Picking the Crows in Adelaide.
Oh, it's in Adelaide. Okay, I was going to tip I'll tip the Roos in. I thought they were good against us. I thought they played some really good footy, and I think if they can play 4 quarters against Adelaide like they played 2 quarters against Sydney, then I reckon they will win. So I'm going to tip the Roos. Yeah,
that's true. It's a good point. Hey, look, who knows? It might be a game of the round, but you never know. All right.
Imagine. You got 2 top 4 battles in the game of the round, 17th versus 18th.
Just the style of footy, mate. Style of footy. Plus a crowd. A crowd always helps, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? I tell you what, if they play the finals in empty stadiums, I give up. That's me out.
Just play it in Perth already. It's fine. Just play it in Perth. I think that's what everyone wants, right?
Just anywhere where they can get people to go and watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Stevo, that brings us to the end of this episode. On behalf of the Bevy, I'd like to say thank you very much for listening in. We look forward to you joining us next time. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Bevy of Bloods for updates and announcements. Please also feel free to check out A Quick Bevy with Swans fans on YouTube and Spotify, or wherever you check out your videos and podcasts. A Quick Bevy is a short weekly bonus series by me and a few of my fellow home game members from the O'Reilly stand, Chris and Brett, in which Swans fans take it in turns, racing the clock to answer some Swans-related questions. Until then, up the Bloods, and can you Swannies?